Greetings. Hey, thanks for joining us here on the Do Business Better podcast. It's me, your host, Damian Mason, but you already knew that. You heard that in the introduction. Got a great show for you today. We got a story of innovation, entrepreneurialism, and adaptation, because that's what great businesses do. We are in a boondoggle. We are in the COVID. If you're listening to this 1 year from now, I hope to goodness you just look at this as a bad, distant memory. But right now, as I'm recording this, in mid-April of the year 2020, we are dealing with the pandemic and, more importantly, the government's response to shut down our economy, which has had tremendously negative, devastating impact on many small businesses. I've got a small business online with me today, and they've got a great story about something they are doing to adapt, to adjust, and to roll with the punches and keep their company alive during the pandemic and the economic response. Just, before going further, this is the Do Business Better podcast. And now, not only available, if you're a listener, thank you. If you're a listener on whatever format, you might get us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. You can always find it at DamianMason.com. We also are doing it on video, so you can see my lovely face and the lovely faces of Matt and Brock, who are my guests today. Go to Damian Mason. It's my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and type in Damian Mason or D Mason Comedy, and then you'll find it. And go to the playlist, Do Business Better, and please subscribe while you're there. Okay, Brock James and Matt Campbell. They are with a company called RPD, which stands for Rubber Products Distributors. Rubber Products Distributors is an Indianapolis-based company that does what you might imagine a company named Rubber Products Distributors does. They bring in rubber products from all over the world and make it available for their customers, who are largely in manufacturing in the United States of America. They're going to tell you a little bit about that, and they're going to tell you what they've had to do to keep their business humming during the obvious slowdown that's happened because of the economic shutdown of our country. Matt Campbell, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely, Damian. Really appreciate the opportunity for you to sit down with Brock and myself and kind of tell our story. It's been an interesting 3 weeks, to say the least. RPD is, like you said, a rubber products distributor, but we also distribute plastics, metal to rubber bonded parts to automotive customers, medical field, fitness industry. Started back in '87, just a little mom and pop family owned business, and over the past 33 years have grown exponentially over that time. We import a large amount of our parts from, China, Taiwan, Vietnam. That's where a bulk majority of this type of commodity is made. We warehouse it and we ship it to our customers in a just in time delivery basis. Customer satisfaction in that regard is our biggest thing. Obviously, with everything going on, the automotive industry has gone down. Other industries that we've been supplying have gone down. So one late night, Brock saw a LinkedIn post for one of our suppliers that said, "Hey, we've kind of revamped, our manufacturing capacity to do these face masks, for protecting during the COVID-19 pandemic, whatever you want to call it." And reached out to him, kind of started that conversation on what capacity in that regards was. From there, we sent it out to our customers saying, "Hey, this is a commodity that we're getting into. Let us know your interest." And Damian, if I told you our phones haven't lit up more in that first day in 30 years, I would not be lying. It was the craziest day.
So here's the thing. I think most people can grasp, and if they don't, there's a lot of stuff that everyday consumer uses that has your stuff in it. It's a little rubber gasket, a little rubber grommet. So this is in your car, it's in your refrigerator, it's in your air conditioning unit. I mean, who are your customers? Are all those things and more?
Yeah, correct. So we're really big in the truck trailer industry. So on the back of the trailers, those dock bumpers, a good amount of the large OEs get those from us. Door gaskets, like rubber feet, on the bottom of fitness equipment. That's big for us. We supply, one of our biggest commodities is we're a distributor for a company called Hayco out of Toms River, New Jersey. We're one of their largest distributors. We're a master distributor. So their parts really correspond well with what we do, because people that use the grommets and bumpers that we currently import also use Hayco products and vice versa. So that's been a good complementary.
They go to what?
They go to anyone. It's an electrical cable management company out of Tom's River.
Okay. Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of your stuff is slowed down because it goes from manufacturing, truck, trailer. I just had a guest on. We're talking about we're probably down by 30% on trucking. And you say, oh, trucks are still moving. Yeah, but not like they were because we have a lot less consumption because we have been thrown into this 17 million people unemployed as of the recording of this. So your manufacturers don't need your stuff because nobody needs their stuff. So it's the old trickle down. And so you're sitting there saying, man, we've got rubber stuff to sell. We got plastic fittings to sell, but nobody needs them because they're not making stuff. Is that the way we look at it?
Correct. And Brock, if you want to elaborate a little bit on that into that regard.
Yeah, when all of this started, we expected a downturn on our side. We really didn't anticipate that it was going to be as drastic as what it is, and we didn't think that, the automobile companies would essentially come in and just say, we're going to close for a month. Or, someone like Toyota, who has a presence in Indiana, down in Princeton, they closed until May 5th, and that's been on since the end of March. So, they're going to be down for over a month. A company that produces all of the domestic Toyota Siennas, the Toyota Highlanders, and the Toyota Sequoias, which are, three of the highest selling vehicles in the United States. For a company like that to shut down, we are supplying a lot of those tier one providers to them. So, like you said, trickle down was a tremendous thing on our side. We saw.
You're talking about these companies. Obviously, it's not just like a week. We all can set up. We all can withstand a week. We can all probably withstand 2 weeks. But you're starting to talk about 5, 6, and 8 weeks, and then even beyond that, because the long tail, they're not going to ramp right back up. Even until Toyota gets going again, they're probably not going to make as many Toyota Siennas on the first week back as they were making the week before they closed. So you're still talking about 3 months, 4 months of lowered demand.
Exactly. We're, the anticipation, we go through this every year with the Chinese, and we do a lot of trading with China for many, many years, decades. And the thing that we see every year is the Chinese New Year. That is the big thing in China. They have their New Year celebration. China relatively closes the entire country for roughly 2 weeks. And then the issue is it takes another 2 to 4 weeks for them to ramp back up. So we're going to see the exact same thing stateside with this. It's not as easy when you go into a couple 100,000 square foot manufacturing plant. You can't just flip the lights on and start rolling again. It's going to take some time for a lot of those folks to ramp back up, and then the demand's got to come back. You look at some of the opportunities that are out there from these major manufacturers. You can walk anywhere, and they're just trying to give it away. Money is free, terms are outlandish, and it's all to try to get the consumer to make the purchase on something that, number one, right now they probably can't afford. But if they make it enticing enough, it's kind of the old carrot and the stick type of regime that they're going through. So, that was our instance on our side with just trying to get an understanding of really, what the hell were we going to do? What was the capacity on what we had to do? And like Matt had explained, we had a couple of meetings to discuss what our overall business plan was going to be throughout the course of the next, 3 to 6 months and then even longer. And what we could transition our business into if our business was going to diminish in the auto, truck, trailer, food equipment, fitness equipment, because it wasn't an essential item. What could we do? What was it going to take to keep the doors open and people employed? And the thing that we realized very quickly was we didn't know. We honestly had no idea. We sat in a conference room and we bounced ideas off of each other, and we got into a situation where something in the lines of PPE got brought up. So whether it be face mask or a gown or ventilator or whatever it was, but the issue was we didn't know anything about it. That is nothing that we had ever crossed that bridge, never done anything with, and so it was kind of uncharted territory. So with that, we kind of expanded, and I walked in and I told myself I had to eat some crow over this because I was very adamant in the fact that now's not the time to go into something that you don't really have any idea on what you're doing. You don't have. There's times to take financial risks in business, and in the midst of an economic downturn, most generally that's not the best time to start taking risks. So we wanted to make sure that if we were going into people that were doing ventilators, that we stuck with parts that we knew. Like Matt had said, the rubber feet that maybe go on the bottom of the ventilator if it sits on a tabletop or something like that. And it was a lot of conversations that were kind of circling around, and didn't really come to a culmination on things when we went down that path originally.
All right, so you're sitting there, you have this meeting, you got 30 employees, obviously all 30 of them, you got folks that are running trucks and in the warehouse, they weren't involved on this, but a few of you went in and said, we've got to figure something out. Our revenue on a weekly basis is dropped by 2/3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you're sitting there saying, we got to do something. Who came up with the idea of personal protective equipment in light of the pandemic?
I was looking at LinkedIn about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
My kids had went to bed, and I was kind of just browsing through my phone on LinkedIn. And a manufacturer that we have had talks with over in China had put a post on LinkedIn that they had transitioned half of their manufacturing capacity into producing protective face masks.
Okay.
And so from there, once again, it came to the aspect of, we don't know what the hell these face masks do. I don't know anything about them. There's a lot of different stipulations that went along. So I made a couple phone calls that night, and I have some neighbors that live near me that are doctors and nurses. And so I asked them kind of what the situation was. And, we started talking technical terms about surgical masks and different evaluations that those are given, and then the KN95 and the N95 mask. And so we started asking a lot of questions, and we started having conversations with our folks over in China. And from there, it just kind of it progressed. We started that next day. We came into the office. It was a Friday morning, and I walked in and I said, I'm going to eat a little bit of crow, because I said we shouldn't maybe take an adventure that we don't know a whole lot about, but here's the information I know, and let's have a conversation. So we talked about it a little bit. And the idea is let's put an email draft together on company letterhead that says we have a viable source to be able to attain this equipment. And let's throw it out to the masses. We've got every single email that's in our computer system for every single buyer, every single company that we do business with, current, past, and prospective future. And I said, let's just put this email together. Let's throw it out. Let's go fishing. Let's see what we catch. So we started at about 11 o'clock a.m. on a Friday morning, which would be 3 weeks ago today, Matt, I think.
Yeah.
Been 3 weeks ago today. We threw an email out to the masses at about 11 a.m. and every single one of our phone lines from roughly 11:45, 12 o'clock until we went home about 7 rang consistently. The email inbox that we sent that out of had 1,000+ emails in it. We had voicemails that were maxing out our voicemail system on our phone, because we found out in a very, very short time that what had happened is on the PPE side, a lot of these manufacturing companies, when the downturn started on the PPE, they had made donations to local hospitals, to local nursing homes. And these guys are, in welding maybe, and they need it for their fab, or they're in paint and they need it for paint. And so, they're trying to continue to operate, and yet they don't have a viable source on being able to attain the actual equipment they need to be able to continue to operate. So, there were a lot there. And then, some different key players kind of fell into place, and some very, very large orders came together in a very, very short period of time. And, I kind of equated it. It was like going from never throwing a baseball before in your life to getting thrown in the bottom of the ninth in Game 7 of the World Series with the bases loaded and a full count. And you went from never throwing a baseball to that in a matter of 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, so wait a minute now. This is 3 weeks ago. Matt, I need to hear from you. All right. It's a good idea. You got to come up with this. You're entering a business you've never been in before. You're good at distributing stuff. You've got the infrastructure. You've got the warehouse. You guys have lines of credit. You have trucks. You got all that stuff. What you don't have is you've never sold, at least basically never sold stuff to the medical world.
Correct.
And so that's who called you? Who were these emails from? You just put a blast out there and said, we have a reliable source to get this stuff. If you go to Toyota or the manufacturer of refrigerators and say, hey, we can get you surgical masks, they're going to say, like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't need those. I make refrigerators, and we're not even open right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you go to? Who responded?
I mean, anyone with Anyone with a valid email address basically respond to Damian. I mean, our customer base is so vast. It's OEs, but it's also a large amount of other distributors. So, they've got their customer base, and everything with COVID-19 right now, trickling down from, one governor saying you're going to have masks on if you're going to go in public, or, owners worried about the well-being of their employees if they're coming into the office. I mean, we're selling to, the medical industry direct, to people that make hospital beds. We're selling to distributors that are selling to trucking companies. We're selling to distributors that want to give them to their employees. That it's a good mixture of people that are reselling them or donating them to local hospitals. In the New York area, in Michigan, California. That's a big part of what we saw, is people wanting to, one, procure something that they could either use, resell, or donate. And so, pinning it down to one particular type of customer is impossible, because our customer base is not pigeonholed into one industry. It's very vast because of our customers being other distributors. Their outreach, allows for our outreach to be much more than we could never know.
Okay, so is everything? Have you gotten product in yet?
Yes. So that's been probably the biggest hurdle that we've had to jump through doing this. We were shipping parts UPS just to meet the demand, and what we found out very quickly is that the cost for that was astronomical. And also logistically a nightmare, because everyone and their mother is trying to import right now from China, because with the GMs and the other OEs that have realigned their manufacturing to make ventilators.
You've used OE 3 times so far. I might have a person listening to this that runs a dry cleaners, and they're saying, this dude has used the initials OE 3 times. What am I missing?
That's an original equipment manufacturer. So it's someone who takes our products and makes something. So like a truck, a Wabash National or a Great Dane or someone like that, they're an original equipment manufacturer. They take parts and make something. So good follow-up question there. Yeah. I kind of lost my train of thought, but
you're talking about you learned about the freight. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You learned about the freight, and you wanted to fulfill demand as fast as you possibly could, but you were doing it in a very costly way. So you've refined that.
Correct. So, just to get the supply chain rolling, we as a company decided that it was in our best interest to start trickling in masks. So we were sending the UPS. We did about 4 or 5 shipments UPS that have, we've got one more coming in on Monday. That'll be the last of the UPS. Our biggest thing is large bulk buys and then sell small package to our customers. That's why they come to us. I'll buy 1 million grommets and sell 1,000-piece packs, and customers, get the benefit of me buying that large volume. So once things started slowing down just a little bit, Brock actually, when he joined RPD, came in as our logistics manager. He worked in logistics for many years and came to RPD with that background and kind of streamlined everything with our logistics. That's really his strongest suit in that regard. So getting logistics figured out for him was pretty easy. We've streamlined everything with our logistics company. So after the UPS, what we did was we started doing larger consolidated shipments. Instead of 22,000 masks, we're doing 500,000 masks. And actually, in the next week, we are actually chartering an entire luxury airline to bring in close to 2 million masks. It does come in at substantial cost, but if you look at what it would have cost to do the 2 million masks over 10 shipments of X number of masks, 200,000. The one lump cost for the chartered airline is actually more cost effective for us to do it that way.
I see. So you've already gotten stuff blown out the door. You got more stuff coming. And here's the deal. When do you exit this side thing, or do you?
We've had that conversation over the last week. The influx right now is huge, and there's so much uncertainty over what's going to happen in terms of mandates from either the local, state, or federal government in terms of what you need to do if you're going to be out in public.
Yeah.
So right now we're just trying to get our head above water and fulfill what we currently have on order. We are looking at possibly doing another either large order to actually put on an ocean container and get here, end of May, or does that mean we do weekly consolidated shipments through our logistics company? We kind of, what we don't want is to buy heavy and then everything blows over and we're stuck with a bunch of inventory that we have no idea how to sell. So it's a balancing act on making sure that
it's easy to sell surgical masks right now. I went to the grocery store the first time I've been been out in public for 12 days, and when you got the person bagging groceries wearing surgical masks, and the old woman coming in to pick up her her prescription wearing a surgical mask, it's a pretty easy thing to sell. It's the old thing about ice water and hell. But then there comes a time when hell's not hot and ice water is not as much in demand. So there's a reality about that. So is it going to be that you just get out ahead of time? Are you going to try and play the timing? Or are you going to say, no, this is a new thing we stay in? Do you try and be the timer, or do you try and stay in it for the long haul? Brock, I want to hear from you.
I think, it's I think it's tough. I mean, right now we're playing the timing game. The biggest thing with us, like Matt said, is you don't want to get caught holding the bag with a bunch of stuff that, number one, the market rate on this has risen drastically. And so once things settle down, a price point that we've paid for these no longer becomes a marketable price point. Right. So, you run into that situation. So it's definitely a lot of timing. But I think the biggest thing that really opened our eyes to is we've figured out in 3 weeks how to change our business model 180 degrees in 3 weeks. 3 weeks time, we went from selling products that we've known about for 30, 40, 50, 60 years since, since the owner's father started in the rubber game, to selling something that we didn't know anything about in a very short time. So what that really did is it opened up our eyes in that, the entrepreneurial spirit is still alive. There's still an opportunity. You got to roll with the punches. So I think that we continue to fulfill as we are able to fulfill. We continue to take orders and be a viable source for this stuff. And then when it's time to roll again and it's time to get back in the ring and start punching, get back in the ring, we go at it and we figure out what the next thing is.
That's Matt. You think that's the deal? You think that the biggest part of this? Yeah, you're going to make some money. You're going to keep your 30 employees paid. You're going to keep the doors open. You're still not probably where you were, but it buys you some time and it keeps cash flow going. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Absolutely. With everything going down, like you said, about 2/3 in normal business being down, we were facing, substantial losses where we were going to have to, possibly lay off some employees, which is, never what any business owner or higher ups want to do. So by doing this, it is going to help us at least sustain our business for the next couple months. And at that point, either we continue on with this, if we can get because what's going to happen is the manufacturers right now are inflating their price because the demand is there and the supply is low. So once everything slows down and the supply matches the demand again, if that piece price comes down, because masks that we're selling where we are right now are 20 times higher than what the current market value was if you would have looked 6 months ago. Yeah. So, we can evaluate that. But the nice thing is, one, we're not having to lay anyone off because of what's happened here. And two, we're going to hopefully have enough influx that we are going to be able to sustain until the economy picks back up and the OEs start, making things again, and we can go back to our core business model. But in our back pocket, like Brock explained, we now know that we can go out and, promote a new product and do it very quickly if the call is necessary.
Yeah, that's the best part, the adaptability. And I always talk about that. As you listeners know, I'm big on reinvention. I talk about it at great length. I talk about it at corporate events. I teach organizations, individuals how to reinvent to be relevant and successful in tomorrow's marketplace. So if you have an event coming up, check out DamianMason.com or go to my YouTube channel. You can see hundreds and hundreds of videos of commentary of me on stage doing what I do. And also while you're there at DamianMason.com, you can pick up your copy of Do Business Better or any of my other products. I like it. It's a story about adaptation. It's a story about evolution. It's a story about survival. It's a story about we're going to do whatever it takes to keep the doors open, and we're also still satisfying a customer. It's not, oh, we figured out a way we're going to screw everybody. We're satisfying an absolute need that's actually very good for the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, we heard a story right before we launched everything that they were selling, disposable masks in New York for $7 each, and you hear all these things about the price gouging, and in no way, shape, or form is that what we're doing. We're looking at what it's going to cost us to do it, factoring in some freight, make a little bit of money to keep the doors open, and also satisfy the need that's currently out there in the world. We're not trying to get rich off this. It's not a get rich quick scheme. We saw a need. We saw an opportunity, and we implemented it and went forward. And it's been an exciting 3 weeks, to say the least. It's been probably the most stressful 3 weeks, most sleepless nights in that 3 week time frame. I mean, Brock and I basically every night, we go to work, and then we come home and spend a little bit of time with our family, and then we start our second job, which is our China job, where we're on the phone from 10, 11 till 2, 3 in the morning. Brock's had some mornings where he's on the phone till 5 in the morning. Yeah. We joke that if we could have done this, it would have been so much easier for us to just been on the ground in China for the 2 week time frame, because figuring out everything over the phone and through, emails and WeChat and WhatsApp and all those different things, it's been a challenge. But we're getting through it, and it's like I said, it's been a very challenging but very stressful but very exciting 3 weeks.
And you know what you now can do, because remember, everything you do, it makes you stronger for the next time. Brock, you're the logistics man. I need you to be the promo man. How do these people, somebody here's listening saying, you know what, I need 10,000 gowns, something. How do they get a hold of you?
Very easy. They can reach us at email. I'm sure if we can't give some advertisement, I don't have a business card. www.rubbergrommets.com is our website. That'll have all of our information on there. It'll have contact information for us, telephone numbers, email addresses, so on and so forth.
The company's called Rubber Products Distributors, RPD. Their website is rubbergrommets.com. His name is Matt Campbell. His name is Brock James. Thank you guys for being on here.
I appreciate it, David.
Pretty much really love the story about adaptation, evolution. All right, folks, that's a good story. Check them out, and I really appreciate you joining us. Till next time, it's the Do Business Better podcast.